Hello, friends and enemies, heroes and villains. Welcome to Epic Realms. Today's guest is a well-known D&D blogger and author. Known for Hipsters and Dragons, the blog, his new book, The Creative Game Master's Guide to Extraordinary Locations, just released. Duncan Rhodes, welcome to Epic Realms. How are you?
Hi Nick, thanks so much for having me on. I am doing pretty well. Thank you.
You've done some D&D in your life, from what I understand. How old were you when you first were introduced to Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop role playing? I suppose, because I don't want to assume.
Yeah, well, you did assume correctly. It was Dungeons and Dragons, and I would say the first time I played, I was 11, but I'd actually heard about the game previously.
Okay.
Uh, I heard about it even in primary school, and I was really curious about it. Just the name just grabbed me straight away. Uh, I was I think I'd already read Lord of the Rings by then, and I was definitely a big fantasy fan. And yeah, I wanted in, but no one I spoke to knew really what Dungeons and Dragons was, and or how it was played or anything like that. I think someone went to the library and even got me. I think that they got me a secondhand book called "What Is Dungeons and Dragons," and it was a paperback book. I wish I had it with me. I think it's in my parents' house in London, but it didn't make any sense to me, not in the slightest. So I really I only played when I went to secondary school, and there was a group of kids in a different class to mine, same year but a different class, and they were playing in the school cloakroom of all places. We There was no like dedicated club or anything like that. We literally sat on the floor of the cloakroom, and like I don't know. So what's the word? But it was very lo-fi, let's say,
Okay.
experience. Paper and pencils, and yeah, I was amazed by the dice. I'd never seen a polyhedral die before, and I think that Dungeon Master, at least in my mind at the time, was amazing and really created a sense of mystery. And I just couldn't believe I was playing this game where anything was possible, because all the games I played up to that point had a very rigid set of rules
Right.
that you move within, and just a couple of options of different moves you can do, and that was it. So it was a revelation. Yeah.
Which system was it? Which edition, we'll say, was that?
Uh, it, he was either making it up as he went along, or it was Advanced Dungeons and Dragons,
Okay.
because I definitely remember we had the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons books at some stage, and then I got them myself. And then later the same guy, he got too cool for Dungeons and Dragons, and he tried. I remember he tried to sell me the second edition of the game, and I didn't really understand. Like, I was like, "What do you mean second edition? Like, I've already got the game."
Right.
And finally, I realized, that there was basically a new set of rules, and I got those as well. And we probably, until I was 18, played, yeah, with the second edition AD&D,
Okay.
and then I went to university and gave it up. Not really deliberately, just didn't find time for it, and university is full of distractions anyhow. So yeah, I did the. I think it's a lot of people. I did what a lot of people my age did, which was basically go on a 20-year break, and then discover, after some adult responsibilities had died down, that people were still playing and that there was a new edition out, and so I took up the mantle again, and yeah, been playing since about 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before you went to college, did D&D, do you think that helped or hindered your schoolwork, going to school, uh, writing, storytelling?
And I don't think it affects it. It probably didn't help me get into great sleep patterns, because I would stay up late, like scribbling dungeons and like writing maps. And, I would have only been 12 or 13. So I was probably staying up like way too late. And I remember sleeping through quite a few classes, or like doing that, like pretending I'm looking at my book, but really my eyes are shut underneath my hands. So it yeah, probably wasn't great, but you were exercising a lot of skills when you played Dungeons and Dragons, right?
Right.
A lot of creativity, it helps with your reading. So you got to read a lot of material, you pick up some kind of esoteric vocabulary.
But if it's second
And
edition, your math, trying to figure out
yeah,
THAC0.
yeah, yeah. My math was pretty good in those days.
Mine wasn't, and it's just getting worse. So maybe I need to go back.
The thing is, when you're a kid, they force you to learn all your times tables, don't they?
Right.
So, I mean, every 7-year-old kid is better at math or, in their head calculations than a 47-year-old adult,
That's true. What did your parents and family think about Dungeons and Dragons at the time? Because I know for me, I grew up in a time in the States where D&D was evil. And
Yeah.
if you were doing second edition, you might be somewhere near that era.
Yeah, there was the Satanic Panic reached the UK for
Okay.
sure. They did. There was an announcement in assembly one day that Dungeons and Dragons was banned now, and we couldn't play it. By then we were quite old already. I guess it was about 94, 95 would it have
Okay.
been? Satanic Panic? I can't remember.
Yeah, yeah, somewhere around there.
Um, so we were playing in I think I remember we were in the fifth year, so we were about 15, and we were playing sixth form rooms because all the sixth formers had gone off for their lunch break.
Okay.
So we were kind of what's the word? Like hijacking their
Their space.
spaces. Yeah, they didn't really like that. But anyway, I remember it was known that we played there. So I think once or twice the teachers came along and like cleared us out and told us we couldn't play. But after about a week or two, we stopped playing for a week or two and then went back and no one cared.
No one cared.
So it didn't, in the end, it didn't affect us badly. I don't know how serious it got.
What about your family? What did
Yeah.
they think? Did they care?
No, they didn't care.
Okay.
I mean, they thought it was strange a little bit, I think. But and my parents were very hands off, which is great.
Yeah.
They never really put too many restrictions on me. Even when I started going out, they didn't really give me a curfew or anything like that. So
They just trusted you.
pretty got pretty lucky with the parents.
That's nice. That's nice. How did you choose what you went to school for when you decided to go to college?
Um, I'd yeah, I wasn't really crazy about anything. I wanted to be a writer, so there was like things like accountancy, law, medicine. They weren't calling me at all. Um, didn't really have a concept of interesting jobs that would match my skill. I wasn't enthusiastic for the real world at all. I was looking
Right.
forward to going to university, and I was dreading finishing university. So I was actually thinking about going to art college, but I think I realized I wasn't actually that great at art. I was like the best at sketching when I was like 11,
Right.
but you get to like 16 and then you see people with like real talent and I wasn't that creative either because I was so obsessed with fantasy that I would take great fantasy art and then I would just copy it.
Yeah.
I'd just reproduce it as best I could. And I could do a really good copy, but I wasn't coming up with original ideas.
Yeah.
I don't think I was very creative. And so I created stuff, but I never created good stuff as a kid because I hadn't learned what creativity is.
Right.
And I was very much facsimiles, I saw something I liked and then I did my version, but I never came up with something very new. If you're being harsh about my writing, you could say that's still true, but I do think there's something to be said about taking something that's cool and just doing it well.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, well, we'll talk about that later. But I lost my
Going
thread.
into college, how did you pick
Going to
what you were going to
college,
do?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I chose classics. I chose Greek and Roman studies,
Okay.
uh, which was something I was interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd studied Latin and classics at school at A level. A level takes you up to 18. And yeah, I loved the history, the mythology, which you don't really study that much of. It's more the literature. Um, and I took those interests to Birmingham University, and had a great time. I missed a lot of lectures because some of them were in the morning, and I went out every night partying basically. So I was a terrible student. Um, and yeah, that was my university, really, just playing sports,
Okay.
going out. Um, we Birmingham is obviously a city university, so there was like a student night every night of the week. So you could just party Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then at the weekend you'd have a quiet weekend and only go to the pub,
Why did you choose to stop playing D&D instead of continue playing while you're in college?
It wasn't an active choice. I went with the intention of introducing my new uni friends to Dungeons and Dragons, and I even did mention it occasionally. But running a campaign is effort and hard work, and yeah, probably the partying got in my way. I was struggling to really keep up with my academic work, so yeah, taking on more reading and preparing, I
Yeah.
wouldn't have fitted in. Yeah.
If you were to do it again, would you change that? Would you try and focus less on partying and more on D&D, or were you like that meant something that was useful in life for
Uh,
me to
I
to
don't think it was
network?
useful. I don't think it was useful, but it was fun.
Okay.
So that's just what I enjoyed at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit cringy now. You think, why did I waste so much time? But I'm absolutely sure if I was like 19, if I go back as a 47-year-old, I wouldn't. But if I went back to university as a 19-year-old, I'm sure I'd just do it all the same.
Yeah.
I'd like to think I'd play a bit less computer games maybe, because I got into a very addictive uh, kind of a soccer management game, and it was just a total waste of time, and cost me not my degree, but it cost me at least one grade on my degree, because I could have done a lot better, because academically I was quite bright, but I didn't put the time in.
When you came out of college, what was your goal?
My goal was to write a novel, and I yeah I started several. I wrote a novella. I sent it off to publishers. Um, didn't get any feedback from them, or no, certainly no interest in publishing it. So then I studied. I managed to get a job in sports development, which is a reasonably interesting field. Well, it could be a very interesting field, but it wasn't my passion. Um,
What do you do for sports development? Is that a writing gig? Is that a like do you develop the people that are doing the sports?
I tried to turn it into a writing gig. So sports development, this was really about matching people looking for jobs with training in the sports and physical education world. So you would try and match them up with swimming courses so they could become a swimming teacher, or you would send information on how to follow a career as a personal trainer. So we were a government body, and yeah, the project I was part of. I'm kind of embarrassed by what a bad employee I was, because my heart wasn't really in it, and I still had this very nocturnal timetable from university, and I'd be so sleepy because I can't work during the day. I'm a total like it's midnight now, which
Yeah. You're just waking up.
luckily, yeah, well, luckily for me, is not. I am a bit tired, but this is the kind of. I'm normally like writing some blog or Dungeons and Dragons stuff at this time anyway, so it's
Okay.
it's not a big change to be talking about it. Um, so yeah, eventually I became self-employed, which is how the only way I can really be productive, because I can only really be productive on my terms. I can't. I'm not flexible enough to turn up at 9 a.m. and be at all useful to anyone.
Right. What did you end up doing?
So after sports development, I traveled around the world. I realized I like traveling, and there was a lot of excitement and adventure to be had in that. And then, after being back in London for a bit, I ended up moving to Poland with another idea for a novel that I was actually going to set in Poland. And while I was in Poland, I bought a laptop. This was like 2005, and I started writing my novel. And I was making good progress, mostly because I didn't have anything else to do. But it was also a little bit depressing to like. I'm a social guy, and I had loads of friends in London, and now I'm in a city where I had like one or two people I knew only, um, and no way of getting out and exploring the city. Um, I was just, yeah, me and my laptop writing a novel. It's getting warm. I got there in March. That was okay. It was freezing, so it was okay to be indoors writing. But by May, the sun was, it was spring was blooming, and I was, I wasn't connected with this city that I was living in.
Right.
So I wrote to a website that I'd seen around. I'd seen physically around because they were printing maps as well,
Okay.
called Krakow Life. And it turns out the guy running it was well, he's Zimbabwean English,
Okay.
and he invited me for a coffee on the main square. There's actually that square inspired one of the locations in my book. Actually,
Okay.
I'll dig it out later for you. Um, and yeah, we basically just had a chat, and it was obvious that we got on pretty well. And he gave me an assignment as a part-time writer,
Okay.
and he actually sent me to another city, and he was like, "Here's a few Swati, go and explore Wrocław, and then come back and write a website for me on Wrocław, or write 100 articles or whatever." Um, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I still turned up quite late to work, but I also stayed late and I worked hard. So it was the
Yeah.
first time I really enjoyed my work. And as a result, I was good at it. And then I got promoted to a full-time writer. And then I got made the editor, and I recruited my team, and we expanded uh, to write about cities all around Eastern Central Europe.
Okay.
We actually bought a newspaper as well, and we started publishing a newspaper in Krakow. And yeah, it was probably the best years of my life.
Yeah.
Krakow in those days was, I'm sure, well, it is now, but it was going through a lot of change. It was a really exciting place to be. It still had a
Yeah.
little bit of that communist vibe,
Right.
but it was becoming European at the same time. So you were kind of caught between two worlds, and it
Yeah.
was it was great fun to see it blossom as a city.
When you're writing about those cities and towns, are you writing about sports related things? Are you writing about like this is where you can go? Or are you just telling your adventures? What are you kind of writing about? What is the voice that they're having you do?
Yeah, it wasn't a blog. We weren't talking about our event. Well, actually, I did have a column in the newspaper called Notes from the Underground, where I wrote about like the different nightlife
Okay.
adventures I went on as an entertainment piece. That was I felt like Carrie and Sex and the City, but uh, I never thought I'd say that sentence. But
That's going to be a
and
clip, just so you know.
thanks, and but no, it was tourist advice. So we're writing about the museums, we're writing about the bars, the
Okay.
restaurants, yeah, things to do. Um, so it wasn't necessarily uh high, it wasn't like the peak of journalism.
Right.
Our goal was to cover as many places as possible in as short a time as possible to get as much traffic as possible.
Right.
But we had some good writers, and we kind of prided ourselves on having a good house style, and we tried to make it humorous and entertaining to read. So there was some. We weren't just churning out the word count for the sake of it, like mindless SEO drivel. It was we,
Right.
we took some pride in it. Yeah.
Where did you end up transferring back to do writing about D&D?
Right. Well, After about 3 or 4 years in Poland, I think my fingers and toes were about to go black and fall off, and I was like, I need to move somewhere a little warmer. So I moved to Barcelona and actually franchised the business model. So I run Barcelona Life with my old boss in Krakow, still working together.
So it's still the same
And
company.
yeah, still the
Okay.
same company. Yeah, I just manage the Barcelona website.
Okay.
But I do it more as a kind of as a business. Like he doesn't pay me a salary. I make it my own project,
Yeah.
So which is the challenge I wanted anyway,
Right.
because we get on very well, but we had some different ideas about how to grow the business.
Yeah.
So I got my own thing, and that's brought me a lot of satisfaction. I am getting a bit bored of writing basically what are different flavored lists of things to do in Barcelona.
Yeah.
It doesn't like
Eventually you run out of things, right?
well, it's just not very creatively challenging after a while.
Fair enough.
So
And that's where
definitely,
D&D kind of started to come in.
yeah, Dungeons and Dragons has been an amazing outlet for me. It's kind of given me a new lease of life, because around 2015, I was getting a bit old. I was like, must have been 35 or something. It's not the time. You can't go out so much every time, all the time. You need to find new things in your life. And so, yeah, I was actually a bit worried about how I was going to pass the time the next, I don't know, 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Right.
Uh, because, yeah, I have a girlfriend, but now, but I haven't got married or had kids. So, um, we I was concerned, but Dungeons and Dragons is a brilliant hobby, because you can spend infinite amount of time on it. So
Yeah.
like there's now I look at my life and I'm like, I haven't got enough time.
Right.
Because there's not just Dungeons and Dragons, right? There's all the other amazing role-playing games that I want to play and write things for. And so suddenly I went from worrying about what's going to be my drive in life to worrying about not having enough time to achieve and do everything I want to do.
Yeah. Man. Were you game mastering at this point as well and running games or playing in games?
So back in 2000, I think it was 2015, I ran into a friend of mine in a bar at a concert in Barcelona, and I asked him what he'd been up to recently. I hadn't seen him for a while, and he kind of looked a bit sheepish, a bit embarrassed. He was like, just chilling out, doing nothing. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, just relax, just chilling out, playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, what? And I kind of
Tell
grabbed
me
him.
more.
I was like, play Dungeons and Dragons. I thought this guy was the last person I expected to play Dungeons and Dragons. He was a real Hellraiser party guy. That's how I knew him. But yeah, he had a different side to him, and he invited me to kind of join his group. And yeah, he was amazing. Well, he is an amazing dungeon master. So yeah, I got sucked in back into D&D again, and yeah, for a long time played with him as the GM. And then I've got a friend who's also in the same group, who's like a medieval historian. So he took over with a slightly different style of dungeon mastering.
Yeah.
He's very like, he can just improvise like a completely credible setting. Just in his mind he goes, it's 14th century Bologna. And then he's got a whole setting.
Yeah, he just knows what he's talking about, so why
Yeah,
not?
yeah. So I was very privileged to have those guys as DMs. I offered to run a game, like an adventure, and I ran one, and it was basically a disaster because I mean, they really knew what they're doing, and I mean, my experience was when I was a kid,
Right.
25 years ago. In
Right.
fact, for most of the time as a kid, I was a player as well, because after leaving the first group that I joined, I was a DM for a few years, and then one of my friends took over, and he was a DM from like 14 to 18. So because I prefer being a player.
Okay.
Um,
Scratch that off
so
my list of questions to ask. It's
yeah,
pretty
right, yeah.
standard one when we talk D&D. It's like player or GM.
Yeah, but I'm a player, but I love creating stuff in the background, you know. So I love creating adventures, locations, monsters, whatever. So I'm a player with like the GM's what's the word, like desire for like control and creative input.
Yeah.
Um,
You want to make the things, but you don't necessarily want to run them.
yeah, yeah. I think I have more fun like yeah, dreaming things up than actually running them. I've I've grown better at running things, and I do enjoy it more than I used to now because I'm more confident about doing it.
Hmm.
So I'm less, yeah, you get less stressed, and you trust yourself more. Um, and I actually, that group fell apart, and so I created a new group of mostly new players, and it's it's nice to DM for like newbies
Right.
because they
They
don't
don't have any
kick back on
expectations, right?
everything. Right, yeah. They don't argue over every tiny point of the rules, or you know. The worst people to GM for are dungeon masters.
Sometimes, yeah, yeah, yeah. When did you decide, hey, I'm gonna start a blog? Because your blog came out in I think 2016, and that
Mm,
was after the big, because there was a point in time in the mid 2000s, late 2000s, where blogs were huge, 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 huge.
mm.
Everybody had them. If you got in early, you got all these followers, you got all these viewers, and you kind of came in at the tail end of that big build with your D&D blog, but clearly doing well. How did that blog come about, and why did you decide you wanted to do a blog type thing as opposed to something else?
I actually couldn't find any of those blogs because those blogs were all done on like Google's Blogger and things like that. These really, for me, janky platforms.
Right,
They all the content. Some of it's great, a lot of it's great, but the form of those blogs for me was really. I'm a professional blogger. I have my own, got like Barcelona Life. I've got my own urban travel blog. I'm in the travel blogging world where like the standard of like presentation
right,
and like photos and integration is just so competitive. Because people make money with travel blogging, the standard is way higher, right?
right.
So I came with these like travel blogging standards. I was like, well, I'm gonna have a nice looking blog on WordPress. I'm not gonna give all my content to Google, which weirdly doesn't even have good SEO.
Right.
Work. So I couldn't find those blogs. Maybe if I had, I'd been too intimidated to start. But I was like, how come no one's blogging about Dungeons and Dragons? So
Right.
and they weren't, to be fair, they weren't blogging about 5e, I don't think. I since know some of those blogs, but they were more, I guess, a lot of them were part of the OSR, right? Um, the kind of revival that was happening
Right.
around then. So yeah, so I mean, now I wish I'd started a YouTube channel.
Right.
That's for
Right.
sure, because that's like a level of engagement that's
That's
so
where it
much
would have
higher.
been at that time.
Yeah, if I'd got in then, I might be doing.
But you chose a blog,
But I
and
chose a
that's
blog.
just because you had experience with it. It was easier that way.
Yeah, I knew how to start a blog, and I'm a writer. Basically, I'm not a presenter.
Hmm.
And the good thing about a blog is, I wasn't pretending to be an expert on every facet of Dungeons and Dragons. I'd have an experience at the game table, and then I'd come with my opinion about that experience. And a lot of my blog posts turned into like quite good conversations with other people joining in, and then that helped me understand things that maybe I hadn't understood or deepen my knowledge of the game. So having a blog is firstly, it forces you to order your own thoughts about an aspect of the game. So you get um, just working by yourself. you get a deeper understanding, and then you get the feedback you get from commenters and readers gets you another level of understanding. So it is, you don't, yeah, you're not going to get rich doing a blog, guys,
No.
but it is a nice way of improving your relationship with the game, I think.
Yeah. And now 10 years later, you're still going.
Yeah. And one of the reasons I'm able to keep going is I don't publish that often. I think probably I've probably only kept up a little more than once a month, which is hardly anything. But it's yeah, they say what consistency is key, right?
Right.
So if by setting myself more realistic goals, you're able to keep it up for longer, and yeah, I still get a lot of joy from the blog, and yeah, I haven't burnt out. I would like to do more, and maybe I will in the future, because obviously with the book coming out, there's maybe a chance to rejig my time commitments to
Right.
hopefully do less with travel and more with RPGs.
Okay. What was the original concept when you first put together the blog? What was the original concept, and has it changed from what it was originally in your plans to what it is now?
Yeah, it changed pretty much the first time I wrote a blog post because I think the original concept was I was playing D&D with this group who were, to me at least, like not the archetype of what I expected from Dungeons and Dragons players. And then which is why I called it Hipsters and Dragons. I'm not the hipster they are. So
Okay. Okay.
these like bohemian people, I mean, we could barely get to the end of the session because these guys were so like drunk or high, and they're arriving on skateboards and their tattoos, and I was like, these are not the people I played with back in London.
Right.
So uh I was like, well, yeah, let's blow this open. Let's deconstruct this like nerd tag and get rid of it and make D&D more accessible. That was the goal. But of course, it's very hard to write a post complaining about Divine Smite to someone that isn't a fellow nerd.
Right.
It's not, all the things that like got me hot under the collar during sessions that I wanted to like vent about on my blog. They
Uh-huh.
were all, deeply involved bits of mechanics that weren't really helping anyone get into the game at all, but were finding an audience with other people who were either pissed off with the same mechanics or thought I was an idiot for being pissed off with them. Probably my most, I think the post, I need to get back to writing posts that no one agrees with, because you get a lot more comments on
Right.
those.
Yeah, you
So.
get a lot of people that say no. I did a podcast years ago. Early in the podcasting, early in the range of podcasting about D&D, and my friend and I had an argument. We did a whole show on the argument of whether uh, alignments were useful or not. And I was of the term of alignments are useless and they don't do anything and they show no purpose, and God, that blew up in our face, but in a good way. It was like we got all these downloads and all these views, and it was like, Jesus criminy, we need to run that back. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, writing
well, I'm
something
gonna have
people don't agree with is definitely a thing from
yeah.
time to time.
Rage bait. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna have to listen to that episode then, because I'm still conflicted about that one. I won't go down that
right.
road with you right now. But yeah, I sometimes think, is it useful or not? And I don't know. I haven't solved that one in my mind at all.
What is your favorite type of content to write about on your blog? Like when you're coming up with an idea, you're like, oh, I can't. I'm so excited about this type of
Mm,
thing. Or then you'll do another one. It's like, I don't ever have fun writing about character
mm.
classes, for instance. We'll say, is there one thing you like writing about more than the other?
And my favorite type of post to write is when I think I've had a little revelation that I want to share with other people, or that I want to put like a common misconception to rights. Uh, whether I do or not is another question, but I sometimes I get excited. Like I think one of my favorite posts I wrote recently was, you know, if you uh, asking how to fix slow D&D combat is asking the wrong question. And the reason I wrote this post is that players don't think D&D combat is too slow. Like, I never heard a player really complain that this is boring. I think it's game masters, all the people that I know at least that complain about Dungeons and Dragons combat being too slow, they're games masters, they want to get on with the story, but you might be surprised your players are actually having a good time. And the other thing that I think it just kind of gets lost with that argument is the reason combat is slow in Dungeons and Dragons is you've actually got some interesting choices to make in combat. You've got spells with interesting mechanics. You've got an action and a bonus action and a reaction, and optimizing your character to get to juice those is fun for players. And then you want the reward of having created that character to play out on the table. So,
Yeah.
um, so the reason I kind of came to that conclusion is I've played in a couple of rules light games recently, and it was just the combat was boring. I mean, I attacked. That was it. Like, what do you do on your turn? I look at my character sheet. I've got a big axe and a small axe. The big axe does more damage. I attack with the big axe, and that was it.
Right.
So there's a trade-off, and if you think D&D is slow, then you also have to uh, factor in that the reason why it's slow, and the reason why it's slow is because it's interesting and it's deep, and you've got choices to be made, and games are about making interesting choices. So
Right.
I would be careful before you go, two rules late.
So 10 years of writing a blog. And then at
Mm.
what point did somebody come to you? Did you go to somebody else? Where did this book, where did the extraordinary locations come into fruition, at least the beginning? Did you come up with the idea and go to people to get it published? Did people come to you and to be, hey, you've got this blog, we want you to write a book? Because there seems to be a little bit of crossover, but there also seems to be some gaps in there.
Yes. So the publisher, they came to me. They wrote me an email, I guess, because they found my blog. Because coming from this like SEO background and travel blogging depends on good SEO. So one of the first things I did was write a blog post called Best D&D Bloggers, that was designed to turn up whenever anyone searches for D&D
Right.
blog.
Right.
And it does. And so this publishing company, they must have done a pretty rudimentary search, found the blog, hopefully decided that I was a half decent writer, and then wrote me an email saying that yeah, they're interested in publishing something on the topic of Dungeons and Dragons. This is something more or less new to them. They don't know much about D&D. And so yeah, well, actually I ignored the email at first because I thought it was spam.
Spam, right.
And yeah, like
Somebody wants me to write a D&D book? What?
yeah. So who are these guys? And I was busy, I've got a lot of work to do every day on all my travel projects. So it just, but then it was just lurking at the back of my mind, I think. And I was like, hang on, isn't my like lifetime goal to be a writer?
Right.
And wasn't someone just emailing me and asking me if I want to be a writer? And I was like, maybe I should get back to these guys.
Right.
So I did get back to them, and they were serious, and yeah, they are a bona fide publishing house, and but they didn't really know too much about the topic, so I started pitching what I thought would be good topics to that would sell well, basically,
Right.
because they're obviously interested in sales. So I wanted to come up with a topic that would be fun to write and that games masters are maybe not sick of already, because I don't know if we need too many more monster books. I don't know if we need too many more spell books. Um, and even adventures. You might notice that the book is kind of got some adventures kind of
Just yeah,
layered
here and there.
into the
Yeah.
locations. But I think, well, my experience of writing adventures on the DM's Guild is that they sell really badly. No matter how much love and care you put into them. I spent the whole of COVID, because obviously during COVID I had no income from my travel blogs.
Yeah, because
So I
nobody's
spent,
traveling.
yeah, no one traveling. So I spent 1.5 years writing like an epic gladiatorial adventure, with full of intrigue and like NPCs and like locations all around this kind of festival grounds. And I was so proud of it. I was like, and I paid decent money for like original maps, original front cover, and then I filled it with all the cool stock art I could find. And I learned how to do the layout myself. And yeah, like it's it's sold okay, but like, for a year and a half of work and also financial investment, yeah, it's my magic weapons book, which was way easier to write. Probably anyone could have written it. Sold way more.
Yeah.
So, and the reason is because everyone can use a magical weapons book.
Right.
You can like you don't. It's not an investment to buy it. It's an investment at $5 or whatever. But you're not going to invest 6 months into your life of it. Whereas to run an adventure, or especially a large adventure, you're basically committing a lot of time. So you've got to be very confident that you're going to like it and that it's going to entertain you and your players.
And if you're a
In
game
my,
master, sometimes the game master's like, I've got my own stories I want to tell.
yeah.
There are game
Uh,
masters. There are plenty of game masters that love the pre-made adventures,
mm,
but there's, like you said, there's so many out there. And if you're a game master, you have so many to go off of to compete with, and so many game masters. It's like I have my own
mm,
story. Whereas
yeah.
weapons, it's like I don't have time to make up weapons. Here's a book. Flip through the
Yeah.
page. This one, you get this one. Here you go.
Yeah. You've summed it up perfectly. Yeah. I'd say number one category is game masters that have their own stories. The second category is game masters that want the kind of uh, warm glow of running an official adventure,
Right.
and and to lure their players in and to use the great map. I mean, I actually think Wizard of the Coast publish great adventures.
Oh yeah.
No, I mean, a minority sometimes it seems, but I really like, especially some of the early campaigns they did, the more epic scope. Um, so yeah, you're competing with Wizard of the Coast and people's own desires to run their own games.
Yeah.
So I was, even though adventure writing's kind of what I like doing the most, I was like, no, I need to, if I'm gonna spend another year or so writing a book, and especially if other people's money and investment is going into this, I need something that all game masters are going to find useful.
Right.
Um, and yeah, and that's why how I settled on the topic of locations, because I think no one has a homebrew world that can't be enhanced by some cool locations, right?
Right. And you have a little bit of a background with your traveling, right?
My
Traveling,
traveling,
travel blog. That's got to come into play with making
yeah,
this book.
yeah. I mean, that's when we travel. What do? We look out for extraordinary locations, right? We that's that's what get the headlines in the travel world, and that's what we go and see. So absolutely, lots of the locations in the book are inspired by real world locations. Um, whenever I'm traveling, I'm always thinking, oh, this is amazing. But wouldn't it be cool if some orcs came around the corner and we could cast a fireball at them,
Right, for sure. How did you come about getting art, getting maps? Did you do
Mm,
that? Did the publishers do that? How did you communicate? Okay, this is what I'm writing. This is what I need. You're the writer, but you're talking about locations. So you got to have art. You've got to have maps for locations.
mm. Yeah. I mean, part of my pitch was like, this has to be full color. There's another pretty good line of GM books, and they've already got like brand awareness and first mover advantage. And we need to do something better. We need the one weakness I saw in this line was that the maps were like black and white. Um, so I was like, no, we need full color maps, and I'm very fussy about my maps as well. So they they said to me, yeah, you find and pay for the cartographer from your advance. I was like, that's not a great deal, but it's going to give me control.
Right.
Um, and that's what I wanted. My goal for this book was to create the best product I could. Um, this is going to be how most people get to know me, I imagine. So it has to be the best work I could do. And I was very lucky. I found a cartographer in based in Barcelona.
Okay.
Um, he's a mutual friend put us in touch, and I was able to sit down with him and like tell him my goals for the project, and we were able to, yeah, start WhatsApping each other every day, working on like a test map, which took him about three. The very first map, if you might, if I'll show you if.
Yeah.
Well, that won't be very good on a podcast, will it?
Right. Right. Sorry. The video
Um,
people will know. And people, they'll just
okay,
the
the
people
video.
listening will just have to go and get the book, right? Go and get the book.
Yeah, there we go. Uh, yeah, well, it's the Four Coins Fort Casino, which is one of the island locations. And if sharp-eyed viewers will notice, so it's actually two. Yeah, we didn't do this again. It's actually four floors, which is an absolute nightmare to map over
Right.
over 2 pages. And yeah, what we realized is one, no no more than 2 floors on any map apart
Right.
from this one, because it's just too difficult to fit it on one page. And then the scale of the squares, we realized is too small really to conveniently do 30 in a short space of time. And yeah, we just started getting to know each other, and I realized that, you know, I wasn't able to pay him a fortune. So I realized I was going to have to really give him everything drawn to the square,
Right.
so that to be respectful of his time. Um, so yeah, I probably spent maybe more time doing the sketch maps than I did writing, which because it's not easy to design good maps.
So did you take your stuff that you did for the DMs Guild with layout and formatting? Did you do all of that for the book then, or did you
No,
just
no,
like
no.
this is the stuff and the publicist did all that?
No, thank God. I designed the maps in sketch form. Arturo did the final versions that you see. His Nerdy Maps is his handle. If you want to check out his work, he's since worked for Wizards of the Coast actually
Okay.
and Netflix. So he's a top cartographer. Um, and I did all the content obviously, but luckily the layout at least I was spared and the editing. So it's it's definitely my baby, but I didn't have to do I didn't do the proofreading
Right.
or the layout. So yeah.
What do you think is makes this stand out from any other book that's been done about locations and settings? What makes this one stand out? You mentioned a little bit earlier the maps are not black and white.
Mm.
What other things did you go? We need to stand out in this to be better at making a locations guide or locations book for game masters to stand out from all the other ones.
I think one thing that I will say about my locations is that they are adventure locations. They're not just a tavern or a temple. They are fully fleshed out, ready for adventure. They're normally on a bigger scale than a lot of locations or maps you might expect to find in a product like this. Um, so you, for example, and some of them are entire villages, right? I mean, the Vine Swing Village, which is kind of my kind of rainforest version of the classic treetop village. But you've got like zip vines to get around. So you've got like a it's called the Bonodrome, which is a bit like the Thunderdrome in Mad Max,
Okay.
where it's like a little arena. Then you've got the Queen's throne room. You've got a jacuzzi for the Queen. She's this obese goblin. She
Nice.
basically can't move, and she has slaves that have to create like a jacuzzi by blowing down a reed into her. But
Oh.
yeah, yeah.
So there's story between the locations. It's not just like here's the map and here's what's in it. It's there's stories behind it and details.
Yes, there's a story. It's a kind of choose your own adventure
Okay.
philosophy. So I create the map, I create the NPCs and factions, and I kind of put in like the bottled drama, and then how you unbottle it is kind of is your choice as a GM. So uh, each location comes with a set of adventure ideas. Just talking about the Vine Swing Village, I'll read through them as rescue rainforest gnomes. So some other denizens of the rainforest have been kept in prison here. That's a classic one. Another one is collect rare frog spawn, which kind of is grown. I don't know, does frog spawn grow or it's laid
Well, and the
in like the
GM can do
pond?
whatever he wants, right? They can
Yeah,
take it and
right.
go like, I want to fit this in, however I want to fit this in, and it'll work perfectly.
Exactly. Exactly. So there's a different fetch quest, rescue quests, or maybe even compete at the Bono Bowl, which is like a tournament that the Goblin Queen is
Right.
throwing. So it's what it allows, I think, is for these locations to be a little bit independent of needing a level requirement. Because you can take the threat that's at this location and go, oh, my players can't handle this threat. But okay, so we'll skip the mission where we have to go and drive this tribe out of the forest. We'll go instead for like a heist or a raid. Not a raid. Yeah, more like a caper. So they just have to steal one thing. So they don't have to fight
Right.
everyone that's in the Goblin Village. They just have to collect that one item. So that's something a first level party can do, right? As long as they don't get caught.
Yeah. What I like also is you have these little charts, and a lot of books and a lot of games have the hey, here's a random whatever list of stuff. And I hardly ever roll on the random list, but I look at it and I always look at the random list and go, what can I use? What will fit? What in this list will fit? Oh, this jungle forest. Yeah, that'll work in where we're at. So perfect. We'll do that. Go to the thing, so it's really nice for inspiration as well. And I also like that you can take some of the stuff in this book and say you play Pathfinder, just apply it to Pathfinder, apply it to D&D, apply it to Savage Worlds. What do because you're taking the stories and you can still apply it to whatever system you want. It's really well designed for being able to do that. So I enjoy that out of this book as well.
That's definitely my intention that it was not too tied to Dungeons and Dragons. I was
Mm-hmm.
kind of cognizant of the fact that the game's slightly going out of fashion is probably overstating it, but let's say it's got its detractors, right?
Right.
And yeah, the idea is that if you're playing a high fantasy game, yeah, you're going to have to do some work on the stat blocks, but there's not too many bespoke stat blocks in this book.
Right.
It's a lot of like um I'm often referencing the Monster Manual, classic monsters anyway, so
Right.
that you've got those in Pathfinder, right?
Right.
It's more the stories and the map that are important. So definitely, I've been on a podcast with some guys that only play, more or less only play Dragonbane.
Yeah.
Uh,
Great system. Great system.
yeah,
Nice and simple.
yeah. So you know, different people are taking an interest. They're not. You don't have to be a big D&D fan if that's not your system.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, I love it. Do you have any other
mm.
books coming out? Anything else you're working on that you can talk about? I got to emphasize that you can talk about.
Well, if I mean the publisher hasn't commissioned it yet, but I'm hoping there'll be a sequel, which might be, I'm thinking maybe Extraordinary Dungeons would be a good sequel. So these locations, not many of them would qualify as dungeons. A lot of them are like more like community homes where you can go and
Right.
chat and what's the word, booze and carouse with these different
Yeah.
NPCs. And even the orc village in here, it's not necessarily a fighting location. It doesn't have to be. So maybe an Extraordinary Dungeons would be a good sequel where it's a bit more confrontational and a bit more, every location is full of danger.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
I'm also working, top secret project. I am working on a kind of steampunk RPG as well.
Okay.
So
Love
but yeah,
steampunk games. I love steampunk.
yeah, are there so many steampunk games though? Because that's one of the things that's kind of encouraging me to put my head down and work on this, because
One of the biggest ones I know of, and I can't remember the name of the band, but there's a band that's really popular, a steampunk band, and they released an RPG system that was really good. That was steampunk, and I'll have to look it up later when we're off and send it to you for a reference. But yeah, that one was really good and a lot of fun. And I can't remember, and it was named after, like, the game system was named after the band. It was like XYZ so and so steampunk world, something like that. But it was really good system, really good gameplay. I really enjoyed that. So
I picked up Blades in the Dark as I thought I better read that if I'm writing a steampunk game,
right.
because I actually wasn't really sure if it was steampunk or not. I didn't really know what it was. And it's actually frighteningly scary to some of the ideas I already had. I'm having to change my ideas to not be accused of ripping it off, because the ideas were so similar. But that's a really good game, but it's very niche. It's, you're a criminal, you're a rogue, and you run heists in a city with that doesn't even have a daytime, right?
Yeah.
So
Abney Park is the name of the band. Abney Park.
Abney Park. Okay. I'll have to make a note of that. So yeah, I was actually surprised. If you think of how many fantasy games there are, I think there's room for a few more steampunk ones, because
right.
there must be 1,000 D&D clones out there, and
yeah,
doesn't seem to be like a really wide what's the word, like a versatile, a really versatile steampunk game where you can play a variety of different fantasies, not just heists, but maybe mysteries or combat. Yeah,
for sure. Awesome. Well, people can keep their eye out for that. You have any conventions, upcoming events, locations, places people are going to be able to find you doing stuff?
Not right now, no. I've never been to a convention, actually. So
you're going to have to go to a convention and start selling that book.
Yeah. So that's definitely, I'll have to look into that. I think there is quite a big one in London, so I'll need to check the dates.
Yeah, for sure. Get a booth and get a stack of books and just start pawning them off on people. Get them sold. People can find you at hipstersanddragons.com. You're also on X or Twitter at Hipsters Dragons. No and in there, just Hipsters Dragons. And then on Facebook /Hipsters and Dragons. People can find Duncan Rhodes over there. And of course, go and check out The Creative Game Master's Guide to Extraordinary Locations and How to Design Them, which is a great title. Or just Extraordinary Locations, right? Just extraordinary locations.
It's a bit of a mouthful, that one. You did very well.
I've got it up in front of me so I can read it, because I knew if I tried to go off of my brain, I would fail. I've been trying to promote it when I talk about stuff on live streams and other events that I'm on, and I'm like, the hell is the name of that thing? It's like really long. It's like, oh yeah, it's this.
I
Extraordinary
think
locations.
I think we already had the name, and then I said to publishers, you know what, I want to add and how to design them, because I think a key part of the value of the book will be offering advice on how to design your own extraordinary locations, which
Yeah.
which takes up chapter one, because as we were talking about earlier, people like running their own adventures. They also like creating their own locations. So even though it's only one chapter of 10, for many GMs, that will be the most important chapter, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Cool, cool, cool. Duncan, thank you so much for joining us. Please hang out here for a while. People that are in the live stream chat, please stick around for the Q&A at the end. Get your questions in any of the chats, whichever chat you are in. Throw your questions in there. We will get to them. I know we've got a few in there already, some pretty good ones. So I'm excited to read those and see what the answers are. But first, coming up, indie author Justin Rose is a fantasy author known for his First Immortals series and his anthology works, as well as his strong convention outings. Please join us live March 16th for author Justin Rose. That podcast will hit feeds on the 17th. Also coming up down the road, D&D writer, D&D Adventure League writer, and just all-around awesome person, Tony Winslow Brill. She's going to be joining us coming up down the road. Board game designer Brady Sadler is going to be joining us. Floodgate Games board game designer and owner Ben Harkins is going to be joining us. Comic book writer and artist Tim Seeley is going to be joining us. So please, please, please make sure to click follow, subscribe, push all of those buttons. Guys, those 5-star ratings and reviews, they help. They help huge for the algorithm, and they help huge for discovery. So please, give us a 5-star rating. Give us that 5-star review. It helps us, and in turn, helps our guests. So, for Duncan Rhodes, I am Nick, and I want to thank you all for listening to Epic Realms.